The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sam Kutesa, has come under the spotlight of a probe which is being conducted by the FBI for receiving $500,000 from a Chinese national, Ching Ping Patrick Ho. Ching Ping Patrick has been detained and is facing, among others, the count of Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. In his defense, carried out in the Daily Monitor today, Kutesa says the foundation does exist, it receives support and donations from the well-wishers. Calling this a bribe, he says, is utter nonsense. What are the likely ramifications for Uganda, which is part of a society of civilized nations? The Chinese also handed gifts allegedly to Kutesa and the president. The president's senior presidential spokesperson, Don Wanyama, says anyone who makes such allegations deserves to be in a mental facility. Later in the program, we shall also discuss the FDC polls tomorrow to elect party president as the race pits incumbent General Mugisha Muntu against former Kumi MP Patrick Amuriat Oboe. On the spot tonight is Aswa County MP Regan Okumu, Buhweju County MP Francis Muijushe, legal scholar Dr. Dan Ruhweza, political historian Mwambutsia Ndebesa, and medical doctor and political analyst Dr. Munini Mulera. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. You're on the spot tonight, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are honored that you accepted our invitation to be on this show tonight. I'm going to begin with you, Dr. Munini Mulera, because you are so seated close to me here. And let me just say, I put a disclaimer on what we're going to get into now, because these are mere allegations, and the Honorable Kutesa can only be found guilty by a competent court with jurisdiction. Having said that, the FBI is currently investigating bribery allegations that the Foreign Minister Sam Kutesa, the former United Nations General Assembly President, received $500,000 to influence awards of deals in the energy, banking sector and others. What does this mean for the country in regard to our international stature, Dr. Mulera?
Well, I think before we talk about what it means for the country, we need to look at what it really means for Mr. Kutesa and the president. First and foremost, Mr. Kutesa is innocent until proved guilty. The president, given the inclusion of his name in the allegations, he is innocent. To me, they have an opportunity now to go to the United States and appear as witnesses in order to deal with and extinguish, if you will, the allegations, the innuendos. This is an opportunity for them. But putting that aside, the question is, why is the foreign minister of this republic engaging with Chinese businessmen who want to access the president of Uganda in order to have advantaged access to oil wells, hydroelectric investments here, banking, and other lucrative business ventures? These are part of the allegations, but these are supported by a lot of the email correspondence that has occurred. You see, to me, it is a gross conflict of interest where you are receiving a donation to your foundation, and that one is true because Mr. Kutesa, from his statement, he acknowledges receipt of donation. But what he disputes is that it was a bribe. Now, why are you receiving a donation to your foundation in order to enable some businessmen to access the president? That is a conflict of interest. That is what corruption is about.
Okay, let me take you back. In 2015, I had an opportunity in January to interview the Honorable Kutesa when he was president of the United Nations General Assembly. And I interviewed him to ask him what he could do in his capacity as president of the assembly. Let me take you back that clip so that we can see what he said then.
Your country nominated you and Africa endorsed you. What is it that you can use to leverage for Uganda and leverage for Africa?
What we are now engaged in at the UN, as I was saying yesterday in a public lecture, we are negotiating a new framework that is going to replace the Millennium Development Goals. This is the post-2015 development agenda, sustainable development agenda. And this agenda is going to be more inclusive, it's more ambitious, and its aim is to be transformative, to transform societies, not just to deal with the social issues, although those are dealt with, but we have development issues, we have to address the environment as well, because that's the only way we can have sustainable development. So in terms of how Uganda will benefit, what Africa will benefit, as I said, we had 8 goals in the MDGs. Now we are looking at 17 goals. The overarching principle is ending poverty and hunger. And we are trying to find resources that are greater than we had for the purpose of MDGs.
That was an interview I had with Honorable Kutesa in January 2015. This seems to be another legal question. Let me put it to you, Dr. Rweza. Does he have the right to run a charity organization, especially when you are president of UNGA?
Thank you, Patrick. I'm not aware of the legal regime in the UN regarding the running of charitable organizations. However, I'm aware of the fact that whenever you're occupying a position of authority which would in one way or another easily compromise your integrity, which will one way or another put you in a position of discomfort, or a position that would easily make you get to the crosshairs, like you are saying, it is best that you avoid that. Like I've said, I'm not aware whether the position of president allows one to run a foundation. I can only speak about what happens in places like Uganda, where in case you are occupying a specific office and you are running a business which would in one way or another, if you continued running such a business, compromise your integrity, or put you in a situation whereby you end up facing situations where you have to do business while at the same time you are the one who is awarding the deals. You would rather avoid that for the time that you are a leader, and then resort back to whatever you were doing or start something new when you have left. Okay. Case in point, Chief Justice of Uganda was at one point partner of KAA Associates. When he was made judge, he had to resign that position so as to ensure avoid that there is no conflict of interest, whether it is actual or perceived.
Mr. Mwambutsa Ndebesa, could it be that Uganda has been sucked into this battle of supremacy between the Chinese and the United States? And maybe the Honorable Kutesa is found himself being used as a pawn in the political game of the Americans and the Chinese.
Thank you. Well, that one is possible. But before maybe we look at that, I don't know. I would want also to associate myself with a disclaimer that somebody is innocent until proved guilty. But on the other hand, I don't know whether it may not be a conflict of interest when a government minister gets involved in getting gifts, because I think according to the laws of Uganda, when you get a gift, you are supposed to declare it. So I don't know whether this gift was declared, because you are not supposed to receive a gift with when you are a government official without declaring it. You are supposed to declare it. Actually, you are not supposed to keep that gift. If
this gift was not personal, this gift was to a charity organization, I suppose.
Yeah. We are not very sure whether it is a charity organization or it was his, but maybe legally speaking it was a charity organization. But related to that again, the same minister has been implicated, I don't know how far true it is, but in the media, in the Paradise Papers also, of that tax havens issue. So I don't know, two things have come almost at the same time. But, well, what you said about the competition between the Chinese and the Americans, it is not far-fetched. It could also play into this corruption scandal saga. But on the other hand, since that is already a legal question, I think it is going to be investigated, and you, the journalists, should also call out your investigation so that we come to the root of this problem, because the ruling party, for example, or the government here, has been castigating NGOs that also receive monies here and there, and maybe they also get those gifts and possibly give them to other people, and they have been accused of using that money for political influence. Now it has come to a government minister. So I think we shall have to look at it from a wider perspective. Let's throw in our different opinions and see how it works out until it is proven exactly what happened, whether even that one was a gift to the person or to the foundation, and how much of that foundation funds went to the leader of the foundation and things like that.
The Honorable Reagan Okomo, if the Honorable Kutesa had made public to Uganda that he had received this gift for his organization, for his charitable organization, probably we wouldn't be in this kind of position. He wouldn't be in this kind of position today. Would that have been a better way to handle the issues?
First of all, I think this is a real moral issues. It also exposes the nature of our governance, you know, how we run our system here. But it's also embarrassing to the nation, because there's a common saying, there's no smoke without fire. They could have been something. You know, somebody may not have ignited that fire, but there is fire. There is something running. Whether we run to the Chinese and say there's rivalry between the Americans and the Chinese, that will be another factor. So I personally think this is a foundation that is not well known in Uganda. Its activities is not known. We've not seen the records of what it does in this country. And therefore, when such an organization receives such a huge, in quotes, a huge gift, then you start asking yourself, that gift is for who? And for what purpose? And for what intentions were these gifts given? And what will it be used for? And that's really, but the most embarrassing thing is that the face of the nation at the international level is being investigated. And that's embarrassing to a nation.
How is this likely to affect the relationship between the Uganda and the United States, Dr. Mulia?
No, I actually don't think it will affect the relations between the two countries. I think this business of making political tensions between American China, or relations between Uganda and the United States over allegations of criminal activity is a bit too much. Here is the situation. First of all, I don't know whether many people in Uganda have had an opportunity to read the entire, not what the newspapers are reporting, but the entire document. It is really worth reading, because you see, it is two cases. One, bribery, allegations of bribery in Chad, where the president of Chad was allegedly given over $2 million by this same company because they wanted access to the lucrative oil wells in Chad. And this was transacted via, it was facilitated by the former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Senegal. That gentleman is in prison in the United States right now. And it's not Senegal versus the United States, it's that individual versus the Department of Justice, the legal system in America. So in as far as to the extent that Mr. Kutesa and Mrs. Kutesa are alleged to have been parted to this, it is them as individuals, not as representatives of the Uganda government. The gifts, when you look at the charge sheet, the gifts were personal to them. In fact, you see the allegations by the FBI that Mrs. Kutesa was soliciting this $500,000 as this was in response to their request to access the president. Furthermore, we learned from there that they said in order for them to bring a gift to the president of Uganda, they needed help to make sure they do not have to go through customs at Entebbe. And the allegation in there is that Mrs. Kutesa wrote back to them and said, do not worry, we shall be there to receive you. Then the question that arises, what kind of gift is this that requires help to go through customs without being checked? Is it a wristwatch? Is it a camera? Or is it something bigger than that? Questions arise. Now, first of all, here, whatever it was, if you assist a person to bring a gift into Uganda, circumventing the customs responsibilities at Entebbe, is that not a crime in this country? Shouldn't the URA be interested in that? Secondly, as far as the foundation, now, I have known Sam Kutesa for 50 years. He is an excellent lawyer. He's a very organized person. He's a great businessman. I therefore expect that he has thorough records of this foundation, that he has been filing reports to the URA as required by law every year. The URA and the Ugandan authorities should interest themselves in this foundation. Where are the reports, including of last year? This $500,000 came in, yes. Where did it go? Etc. But we should not make this a Uganda versus United States versus China thing. This is really individuals who allegedly have engaged in inappropriate conduct. May I add, if I may, that while we discuss this, while the president considers what to do, to me, we should be saying, what should our brother Sam Kutesa do? First of all, he should resign. You step down as a matter of principle, because his name has been sullied by these allegations. When his name is sullied by these allegations, it affects the Republic of Uganda. You can imagine now Mr. Kutesa attending a conference in Davos or someplace, representing Uganda with this thing hanging over his head. So that is, to me, what he should do. It is the honorable thing to do. Once he's exonerated, he will return as a hero.
Honorable.
Now, if he fails to resign, I would then expect the president of Uganda to do the same thing that he did to my honorable member of parliament, Mr. Herbert Kabafunzachi. Kabafunzachi allegedly solicited and received a bribe of 5 million shillings, which is about $1.8 thousand, $1,800, right? He was fired by the president. He has not been found guilty by any court of law, but he was fired, which was appropriate, and I really salute the president for having done that to my member of parliament. If he did that, though, to Mr. Kabafunzachi, how about to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who allegedly received a bribe of $500,000?
You've actually ended saying allegedly, and this is still an allegation, Honorable Reagan Okumu. When it is still an allegation like it is, can that really force the minister to resign? Would that be the right thing for him to do on the mere allegations?
You see, most people who always resign, it's not that they are always found guilty. It's a moral high ground to allow proper investigation to continue. For example, this is a foreign face for this country, may continue to have a lot of influence and using his own office. And,
but I thought that would be if he would interfere with investigations. His office would interfere with the investigation,
no,
then he steps aside. In this case,
I think
can he do that?
It's not just about interference, because Mr. Kutesa is Mr. Kutesa, but at the same time, he is the foreign minister of Uganda. He will continue to carry the image of this country wherever he walks. And therefore, if this image is going to be dented because of allegations, sometimes it's morally right for you to step aside, to save the image of a nation and fight for your own self. And once you're done with that, you definitely get back on the moral high ground.
Mr. Mwambutsa Ndebetsa, the FBI also make a claim that they came to Uganda trying to trace the organization, its offices and wherever it is, even the signage, that they did not find it. What do you make of that?
Well, you are just telling me. I don't know. I have not heard of that foundation here either. But maybe it is there now that they have put it in the public. I think very many investigations are going to take place to find out where that foundation is based and what its activities are. And I would expect that Kayihura and his boys, or the CMI now, because it is now involved in such investigations, should now move and find out. Maybe they could give the public that knowledge and that information that we are yearning for. So many authorities should come up. Even I think the president should get interested, because there is that allegation connecting him and even the NRM party that maybe the bribe or the gift was for campaign financing. So there are very many institutions and individuals whose name is tainted, and they should get interested in this, so to get the root of it, clear their names, or everybody may find that he is clearing his name, but otherwise the whole thing is still shrouded in myth. But at the same time, it has raised issues, and when such issues come up, you have to get interested in what is going on. How come that when those other MPs in America, from Africa in America, are arrested, they are connected with another foreign minister in Uganda, and therefore that should be the lead, even if you don't have concrete evidence. I mean, there is a Runyankore saying or proverb which says that when my ship is lost, is it when the hyena starts defecating wool? So it is, even in law, they say circumstantial evidence. There is circumstantial evidence which may not be the real evidence, but you can build on that circumstantial evidence to come to the root of something. So I imagine many institutions, many organizations should get interested in this one, because it's a big scandal, or at least potential scandal, and therefore everybody should get involved to clear the name. But even you, the journalists, as I said, you should also get involved so that we get to the root of this allegation.
And this is what I was reading, if I can put it to you, Dr. Rweza. According to the FBI agent, Thomas McNulty, who is prosecuting the case of the Chinese national Chi Ping Patrick versus the United States, he claims that the communications, the Chinese national variously referred to this payment as donation to the re-election campaign of the president of Uganda, and as a donation to support the Ugandan foreign minister, who also advised the Ugandan foreign minister as well as the president of Uganda, he also provided the president and the foreign minister, another allegation, promises of future benefits, including proposing to partner with both officials' families in potentially lucrative joint ventures. Yeah. In exchange, the Ugandan foreign minister assisted the energy company in obtaining business in Uganda, including by facilitating the energy company's interest in potentially acquiring a bank. In reality, this payment was a bribe to obtain business advantages for the energy company in its efforts to secure contracts and ventures in Uganda's financial energy sectors, the FBI agent concludes. Now, can the minister in his capacity seek investors? And what is wrong with that, Dr. Rweza?
Well, thank you, Patrick. Can the minister seek investors? I think as part of his job to do with foreign affairs, I do not think there is any contradiction with seeking investors for the good of your nation. In his capacity as foreign minister, he can do not just that, he can do even exceedingly above that, as long as it's within the ambit of the law. Like Dr. Munini has said, the challenge we have here is it's still an allegation, and the fact that it has come to court means that this evidence is going to be tendered into a courtroom before the court of competent jurisdiction, and the court will make a decision based on what the defense of Patrick Cho raises. But of course, the challenge remains that, one, the image of our nation obviously has been put in disarray, similar to the image of the nation of Chad. Two, like you asked my colleagues here about about resigning. Uganda does not have the culture of resigning when allegations have come. This kind of culture is probably in the United States, in Britain, and maybe in the Eastern Tiger nations. We don't have it here. I've only probably heard of Honorable Otafire resigning many years back, but we don't have that culture, so we should not expect. In fact, it will be an exception to the norm if the minister does resign. Two, I think we need to understand why this case is very important. First of all, it's a case involving the banking practices and the sanctity of banks and banking in the United States of America. And I think that is why the FBI has come in. And that is why, from the documentation you're reading, you can see that there were alleged deliberate moves made to ensure that the system is beaten. But I have a bit of assurance. Uganda recently opened up, or we now have a financial intelligence authority, which is really on all fours with what has happened or what is alleged to have happened. And I'm sure that the Financial Intelligence Authority in Uganda, led by Sidi Asubo, is most likely engaging and working with the FBI on this, because it's not a matter that can easily be ignored. Okay, and now that it has come to the light and it has even come to court, I trust that the FBI know what they are doing, and they also know what will happen should these allegations prove wrong. Because you see, you are dealing with very important personalities, 2 presidents and a foreign minister. You know, these are not the former
president of the United Nations General Assembly.
Yeah, so you cannot...
on the issues of image, before we take a break, very briefly to you, Honorable Reagan Okumu, if an individual, despite the capacity he's holding or the office is holding, commits an offense or a crime, does that dent the image of a nation?
I think it does, because depends on the nature of office, the public office such an individual is holding. If Mr. Kutesa was just a private businessman, that would be a different matter. But a foreign minister, and foreign minister is not just an ordinary person. It's not just an ordinary ministry. Foreign ministry actually is a ministry that represents the image of the country, the values of the nation. That's why earlier when I say, it's the whole issue of governance, and my colleague here was saying, will General Kayihura pick interest? Because what FBI is taking is something focused to the interests of the Americans. But having seen what is taking place, are we institutionally going to be interested? This is a big question. My response would be no, because we basically do not have a system of government that should be able to respond to such a situation, because even the office holders, even the institutional establishment themselves that we have around here hang around some individuals. So they would investigate if they're interested, but if that matter touches on them, there will be a kind of investigation either to kill it, not really for public interest. So I don't see any capacity, leave alone the will, to investigate this.
All right, thank you. Gentlemen, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll be switching gears to look into the FDC presidential race. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara, and now we have been joined by the Honorable Francis Mwijuchi, a Member of Parliament for Buweju County. And we're actually switching our gear into the FDC presidential race, which is beating two giants, the Honorable General Mugisha Muntu and the Honorable Patrick Amuriato Boy. We have seen also Mr. Byamujisha and Mr. Masiko there. Some people have called them as fringe candidates. But we can see the Forum for Democratic Change more or less divided between those two. At the end of the day, what does that mean for the election, Honorable Regan Okumu, and consequently for the party?
First of all, I think this is good for this country, and I think what the FDC is bringing in this country is a culture that you can compete for every position, and we should compete for every position. But also it's a culture that we built in FDC over a period of time, that competition is necessary. You may say that there are only two strong contenders. Perhaps that is just the timing. All the four are strong contenders. It depends on the issues around them, the issues of the time, because politics is about time and moments. So maybe at this moment, those are the issues. That does not disqualify the rest for being strong contenders. But at this moment, those are the issues. But I can tell you, we've done it before. We shall do it tomorrow. And I think FDC will build this strength. I hope the other political parties will be able to copy what this young political party is practicing, and would allow them to do the same, because I've not seen that in the other political parties. I have not seen public debates on TV between candidates in other political parties in their internal contest. And to me, this is good for democracy. Commentators have always made mention of so many things. But you know, when you are outside and you don't know the intentions, I hear people talk about camps, you know, that there are camps. Wherever there is a contest, there will definitely be different opinions.
Oh, Francis, we know when Mr. General Muntu ran against the Honorable Nandala Mafabi in the previous election, after that, FDC went through a tumultuous time. Many thought maybe it was going to break up, but somehow it managed to stay again. Should we say the mistakes of the past will be corrected tomorrow?
Well, just because people thought these were camps, but we saw them as, we knew them as teams. We knew that we had different teams. We knew that FDC is, like the name suggests, is a forum for democratic change. It is not just like any other parties in this country. It's a forum for democratic change. And therefore, we don't just talk about democracy, we practice it. We know that once we go for a contest, we'll definitely have different opinions, like my senior colleague has just mentioned, but that we also know that there's a process of hearing after this. We also know that because we know that in one way or the other, a person will step on a colleague, but we still see ourselves as colleagues, we still see ourselves as Ugandans, we still see ourselves as party members. And for me, what is important is that we appreciate that. What is important is that we have capacity to sit as a party and look at what we have gone through. What is important is that we appreciate that we look at things differently and that we are different. Because if kids can fight in a home, if you can fight with your brother and sister, what about bringing these Ugandans from different political parties? You had people coming from UPC, people coming from DP, you had a pressure group reform agenda, you had the PAFO coming on board, and then you start a political party. Even getting to a name was not easy. Getting to FDC was not easy as a name. Now, you begin, you definitely know that you're from different backgrounds. What is important is that you know where you're going and that you want to get there together.
Professor Rweza, if I may, he's talking about healing after contest. We saw really serious misunderstandings there after the election of General Muntu, who was contesting against Nandala. Do you think the cracks that happened then were really sealed properly? Well, and FDC is now an well-oiled machine to move on.
Well, I don't expect perfection from FDC. And if FDC is perfect, then I would have a problem with any political organization that claims to be perfect. I think whether there are cracks in FDC or not, it is good to see that FDC is trying to live up to the name that they have, Forum for Democratic Change. And it's also good for us as observers to be able to see an election taking place as they contest for leadership. I'm happy that Honorable Nandala has not yet left the FDC as many of us had feared. So whether there are cracks or not, I'm not an insider, so I may not know whether there are cracks, but I would hope that there are some cracks, because then you would know that tomorrow the conversation continues. Because you see, where there is a contestation of ideas, okay, then you expect a good product. But if everything is yes, 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 then I would have a problem. So with cracks, without cracks, I would like to appreciate the fact that political parties generally in the nation are trying the best they can. And if FDC can even field 4 candidates for the position of presidency, I think that is a good sign. For those of us who have studied the histories of political party movements in our nation, to be able to see things like this happening, activities like this happening, I think it's good, not just for FDC, but for the country as a whole.
Now, talking about the history of the political party movements, let me take this to Mr. Mambusa Ntebesa, because he's a political historian. What does the recent political history of FDC tell us of what is likely to happen tomorrow, if we are to learn from their history?
I've heard that those tendencies, or these are just surface tendencies which will be overcome, which could be true, but also we must look at some fundamentals within this, these so-called tendencies, because I think there are also ideological differences within that, and ideological differences are not things on the surface, because I think 2 tendencies, ideological now, organizational ideologies. There is one group or one camp, whatever the name is, which is for militancy, activism, and there is another one which is just called the organizers, structure organizers, building structures. These are ideological, these are organizational ideological issues, I think, which need to be dealt with, learn lessons and deal with them. Otherwise, those are not on the surface. 2 is that we are dealing with a young country where the population has not yet appreciated norms of competitive democracy. And you subject them to 3 leaders. You know, yes, FDC has got a constitution that brings in different forms of leadership, but you have got a party chairman who is a leader, you have got a party president who is a leader of the party, you have got a flag bearer who is a different person. So having 3 leaders within the party in an emerging democracy where people have not yet appreciated democracy of political competition can be cause for worry in the young political party. Okay. Considering also there are those ideological, organizational ideological tendencies between the 2 camps, one bent on activism, militancy, and another one bent on just organization and forming structures. Those are not simple issues. I think they need to be addressed. But finally, the lesson I would give to FDC is that this should be a learning exercise, and they should also factor in the context in which we are operating and then see how to move forward. Actually, they should come up with a new legal structure or system where the leadership maybe should only be 2, the president and the chairman, but not the president, the chairman, in the flag bearer. They are, in our wisdom of Proverbs, we have something to say that the hairstyle is cut according to the shape of the head.
Okay.
Therefore, if you don't follow the shape of the head, you may just copy a hairstyle, put it there, and it might look not fit for that type of the head.
Okay, okay. Dr. Mnini, when you look at the FDC, can one say that Dr. Besigye has eclipsed the president of the party and the FDC structures as an individual because of his political acumen, and even though he's not now in the leadership structures?
So there is no doubt that Dr. Besigye has done an outstanding job in leading the forces that challenged the monolithic arrangement that Yoweri Museveni set up. And he has done it with absolute distinction, at the very risk to his own life and to his own freedoms. And when he started off in late 99, he was pretty much a loner. Many people were not willing to even be seen with him. I can recall that in 2001, when he was a candidate, January was here, and I arranged to meet with him at the Hotel Diplomat. And I was actually going just to see him and give him money, give him financial support. Now, I happen to be a free guy. I'm a completely free person, so I will tell you, I gave him money. Many people who did are afraid. They would not even want to do it. They are terrified. So that's how things started. There was that level of fear. Kizza Besigye continued. He fought on. He was incarcerated in 2005. He challenged, and I still believe that in 2006 he won that election.
You do?
I believe it without any doubt. He continued. Kizza Besigye, even in spite of everything, he went on to win the election in 2016. Anyone who doubts that, truly doubts that, should stand in front of a mirror and say it to themselves. He won. So he has done an excellent job. As a consequence of that, he is a giant within the Forum for Democratic Change. And remember, he's operating in an environment, in a country, where we believe in a leader rather than institutions. This is what has been created over the years, by the way, not just by Yoweri Museveni. Going back to the 1960s, Milton Obote I was the beginning and in the end of UPC. And of course, Idi Amin's was not a political arrangement, but he was king. This is the guy who even said no one could be called president of an organization. And subsequent to that, we've really struggled to have competitive politics. The FDC members are children of that culture, of that history. And many of them look at Kizza Besigye as the only person. He is a god to some. So that when you challenge Kizza Besigye, there is a group among our friends within the FDC who think you have committed a crime.
Okay.
I don't know. Allow me, please.
Okay.
Because when we understand that this is the culture that the people are coming from, we begin to see why people feel, oh, it can only be Kizza Besigye, no one else. Now, I believe truly that Kizza Besigye himself does not hold that view. He can't hold that view because if he did, he would be going against everything he has stood for. The question of Kizza Besigye being a giant within the FDC should not really cloud the fact that there have been other people who have done an equally outstanding job. Take, for example, the post-12 tensions that you have referred to. That was a very, very hard-fought campaign between Nandala Mafabi and Mugisha Muntu. Yes, there was a lot of tension, a lot of fighting, a lot of bitterness. But the party is still together. That party survived, not only survived intact, that party went on to field a candidate who won the 2016 elections. To me, this is where I give credit to General Mugisha Muntu. He provided outstanding leadership in holding together a party that had been fractured by an election, and to the extent that that party was able to have a candidate who won the presidency, and that party is still together. And this is why I do not really worry about the FDC falling apart. I think the competition is healthy. The FDC has a lot of good people who are able to move it forward. And I will say Mugisha Muntu has done a great job. I hope tomorrow that he gets elected to continue doing that great job, and so that we continue to expand the number of people who can offer the challenge to Yoweri Museveni and anyone else in the NRM.
All right. Doctor, I think one thing here has been resolved. Dr. Mulera is one of the founders of FDC.
Absolutely.
and is pitching in for General Muntu. Two things have come out.
Yes.
But the Honorable Regan Okumu, there are people, commentators have heard that there's huge difference between the Honorable Patrick Amuriat and Major General Muntu, that their competence levels, all of them good, but they're different, and one of them is superior. I wonder how do you look at it as a senior member of FDC and who is
First of
superior
all,
to you?
human beings are all different. As I said earlier, leadership is about a moment, you know. Politics is about a moment. There are political moments where some people become completely irrelevant. But there are political moments that generate new leaders that would factor in the needs of society. So that does not mean that somebody is weak or somebody is strong. It's just a political moment at a particular time. And therefore, for me, I don't see the words of the commentators as something that should be of grave importance, because I have been with the FDC right from the Reform Agenda, when Besigye was in exile, 2012, 2002, when we converged in Zambia and constituted the leadership in the absence of Dr. Besigye. I became a vice chairperson of the Reform Agenda, which was actually a political party founded, but because the law did not allow us to operate as such, we pretended we were a pressure group. But in practice, whatever we did, whatever we were, our outlook was actually a political party. But when we went on to establish the party, I became the chair of the organizing committee. I have actually been key in this for 9 months. So, whereas sometimes I may agree, which is a problem across Africa, that the ideological component will always remain an issue. But what Professor is talking about is basically not ideological differences. It's a list of priorities. Okay. What is a priority? What should be done first and what should be done last? So, my own thinking and my own outlook at all this, I think the core problem of political parties all over Africa mainly is lack of clear ideology, which I don't want to say we're perfect in it, because that is one thing which we fail to resolve as we gave birth to FDC. We failed to resolve the ideological leaning, the direction the party should take. And that will, of course, continue to generate debates as we refine ourselves, to clearly find ourselves in which direction as a political party. We belong to an organization called, in Africa it is called DOA, and the world over is called IDU, the International Democrats Union, which ideologically belong to the conservatives.
Okay.
You know? We have this lady.
Honorable Mwijushe,
Yes.
we have seen in the hustle and the bustle of the FDC presidential campaign a lot of character assassination. You see especially the name of General Muntu coming in that he's a mole, he's not true FDC or something like that. And of course, every candidate has their own mudslinging that comes. Is this just part of the, it comes with the part of the game of politics, or really it's an insider job to damage each other?
Well, in politics, trust does not just come. It takes time. I remember when Dr. Besigye came on board, there was a time when the Honorable Agura Ward said Besigye and Museveni were two heads of the same snake. So he couldn't believe that Besigye was actually opposition until what Besigye went through over time, and most people believed he was in the opposition. But at some stage they thought this was just drama. It was just some katemba of thoughts between Museveni and Besigye. Now, I wouldn't get surprised if people have not yet understood Muntu. I wouldn't get surprised.
Why wouldn't you not be surprised?
Because I know that over time maybe they will understand him.
I must interrupt you, my dear brother.
Well,
no, allow me to interrupt you.
Well, I will not allow you.
I really think you, as a member of the party,
This is a dialogue.
yeah, I
Why
think
you
you, as a
don't
member
allow
of the
it?
party,
No, I need
should
to make
be
my point first.
It's okay,
I think
let
as a
him
member
chip
of the party, you really should be defending the integrity of the party president. Mwijushe Muntu has been accused of being a mole. He has been accused by some people within the party, but he's been accused by also people within the NRM in order to use disinformation. Mujisha Muntu is a person who has served this country.
You had your
as
time.
you
I wish
know.
I can make my point.
Hang on. No, he has served this country very, very, very well. He has been at the founding of this party. He has been in the trenches. He could have gone and served Museveni in different ways. He has had to make economic sacrifices. I cannot understand, for the life of me, why anyone would think that Mujisha Muntu, who has held this party together, would be a mole. How does a mole hold a party together rather than destroy it? Mujisha Muntu is a solid FDC person. He is not a mole. We saw Rubaramirwa Ruranga, who was advancing that same idea that Muntu was a mole, and Rubaramirwa Ruranga is one who proved that he was a mole because he went back to the FDC.
I wish I can make my
So
point.
I would ask that you make it clear, Mr. Mujisha.
Well, I am not
that,
going. I'm not here to
Muntu
answer
is
your
not a
questions.
mole.
Neither am I here to really
He's not a
speak
mole.
your mind. I am not one of those who think that Muntu is a mole. I don't want to be, and I have not actually heard anybody within FDC say Muntu is a mole.
Otherwise, you wouldn't have elected him as president of
I
Uganda.
supported General Muntu when he contested against Nanda Ramaphosa. I supported him. I moved with him around this whole country, and we explained why I thought Muntu was not a mole. I was not saying I wouldn't get surprised, just because I know how Ugandans think. And that's why I started with Agura Ori. I said, maybe an Agura Ori would think so, like he thought that Besigye was
In partnership with the
wasn't until after some time he developed maybe trust, or maybe other people started realizing because of what Besigye was going through, and that's the point I was making. I'm sorry if you really didn't understand.
Okay,
Otherwise, I really don't believe.
Okay, I think you
I don't believe that that Muntu is a
the
mole.
Honorable Francis, your point is made and taken.
Two, you see, Dr. Murira comes from the medical school. There's what they call diagnosis. And in politics, if you also don't make the best political diagnosis, you can easily address a different problem. You come with a good solution, but to a different problem. So you're treating a different disease. So the challenge that we have in Uganda, I see people who attempt to come with a very good solution addressing a wrong problem. So at the end of the day, you will continue to say, I think So's approach is the best. But
So among the two candidates, you see somebody with solutions that are misplaced?
yes.
Who?
However, no, I don't want to get there. I will not allow you to
Because
speak me
you're
there.
sort of circumventing around something, so I just wanted to hit it on the head.
I come from a background of Democratic Party. And as I was completing school, I would have joined Democratic Party. But I looked at the pace of the DP. I looked at the challenge at hand. And I said, I think at this rate, I would not get where I want to go. And I was looking for a home. I was looking for a vehicle that would run at a speed that I wanted.
Then you're not grounded ideologically.
And that's how I found myself within the FDC at its inception. That I am looking for a vehicle running at a speed that I thought would get me where I'm going. And that's why, yes, and that's why, of course, I told you, even getting Forum for Democratic Change, we had very many, Reagan will tell you how we really took very many days to get here.
Okay, thank you.
Because
let me bring in the
ideological.
other colleagues. Dan Ruweza. You see the brand of politics of General Muntu and Kano Besigye are different. Yeah. And it looks like, is it because of the sort of activism of Besigye as opposed to building grassroots of Muntu that somehow people do not understand, or maybe it doesn't gain that traction because there's some kind of form and substance, if I may say like that. And Ugandans seem to enjoy more of, the thing that is vibrant and not necessarily the subterranean.
Yes, I mean, that is obviously very clear that the two leaders are different, okay? Dr. Besigye is totally more outgoing, while General Muntu is more of a person who would like to build systems, get to the grassroots, and coalesce the support there all over the nation, and he has a plan of where he wants the party to go. So the two are different. And I think just as those who supported Besigye at some point indeed gave him a benefit of doubt and later on seemed to have appreciated the kind of leadership style, he has done his portion and now he has relinquished that to new leadership. And of course, I think it's important for us as Ugandans to allow leaders to develop and to allow leaders to give us the brand of politics or the brand of leadership that they think is very crucial. One of the criticisms of political parties has been that they are unable to coalesce support throughout the nation. And if this is what General Muntu is trying to do, let's give him that benefit of doubt. But of course, I do agree with you that it's going to be a big challenge and that it remains a challenge because Ugandans, or the Ugandans that I know of, are more interested in a more charismatic leader, and now when they compare the two, they are almost from the different sides of the planet. But that said, I am happy still that we even have a semblance of democracy that is taking place from one of the political parties, because that gives hope. And it also helps us to be able to explain, for those of us who are in the education arena, to say that, look, it is possible when we talk about leadership being developed and leaders being given an opportunity. This is possible, and you can give examples of where it is working. Is it perfect? No. Are there cracks? No. Is it perfect? No. Are there cracks? Yes. Will there be challenges in the days to come? Certainly. But Rome was not built in one day. Okay. And the fact that we are even having this conversation is, I think, even good, that we can analyze leadership. We can analyze the style of leaders. There was a time when that was not even possible. And I think it is good for the nation, and it even gives each and everyone, wherever we are, those who are in different political parties, those who are standing for the youth especially, who are more interested in, for them to be able to say, like, okay, you know, these opportunities are available, and it is possible for us now to say that there are alternatives. Okay,
Professor Mabesa, where do you see these two candidates, the two strong candidates? I've called them strong because that's what many people have been claiming. How do they differ, and where do you see them having a point of convergence?
Let me start like this. And the party, in response to Honorable Regan Okumu's assertion about ideology, is that ideology is not necessarily the direction of a political party or organization. It can also be a style, organizational style, or organizational tradition. It can also be an ideology. For example, I know that in my analysis that FDC organizational ideology is militancy, is activism. For example, also NRM's organizational ideology is militarism, as opposed to militancy. Those are also ideologies. Now, in this case, if I were looking at, and I was to advise FDC how even to choose which leader, you would have to look at a leader who maybe fits well in the organizational ideology of the party. And two, I would look at the asset this leader would bring to the party. Because the asset could be personal traits of attributes of an individual, or it could be asset as which constituency you can bring in, whether it is regional, whether it is tribal, religious, ideological, whatever the case. So when you are choosing a leader, you can look at the personal traits of a person, whether his emotional intelligence, his relational intelligence, or his cognitive intelligence, or the asset that he can bring to the party. But also you have to look at the organizational ideology also of the party, as much as you can look at the directional ideology of the party. Okay. Now, according to, hold on, these two individuals I see, I think there is some challenge which I detect there, that Honorable Amuriat is being supported by Kizza Besigye. But I don't think the two are nurtured in the same ideological organizational ideological direction, ideological mobilization. It appears as if Amuriat is not as militant as Kizza Besigye. But then another challenge I find, which is a lesson learning for FDC, is that they have to work on how they select candidates.
Okay.
Let me finish this one, just one. How do you, as a flag bearer like Kizza Besigye, who is actually more or less the leader of FDC, how dare you support somebody who is not the presidential the president of the party? It is possible theoretically, legally speaking, constitutionally, it's okay.
He has a right.
But it is an anomaly. He has a right, all the right. But earlier on I told you that you have to understand the democratic norms of an emerging society where the president of a party is not supported by one of the prominent leaders and founder of the party. It is not a simple thing.
Okay.
Well,
you have put it, but before we go to break, let me put it to Dr. Mnini Mulera. Is this sort of an indication that the founder of the party, the former president of the party, has not much confidence in the current president of the party?
Well, first of all, remember, Dr. Kizza Besigye has every right to choose whom to support. And I will always defend his right. And I do also. Yeah, and I will even go to the extent that I'm glad that he came out. Because at times when we know, I may be aware, for example, that he is supporting so-and-so, but then, it's not coming out clearly, and that you sort of feel, why should Kizza Besigye be suffocated? So I'm glad that he supports Amuriat. But I think one of the misconceptions out there that needs to be really debunked is that that General Muntu his vision is opposed to the activism
organizational ideology.
His vision is a combination of activism and organization and building. You understand that one of the reasons why Kizza Besigye was able to win the election last year was because we had an increased presence throughout the country, part of the organization process. Secondly, imagine, for example, if the Electoral Commission had declared Kizza Besigye president last year. Well, he would have been a president without a parliament, but because the FDC was very thin is very thin in parliament, he would not have been able to nominate Francis Mwijuche as Minister for Education and get him approved. The NRM-dominated parliament would have rejected him. This is why organizing and getting into the country, enabling us to win at all levels, from the LC1 upwards, is critical, and that is what Muntu has been pushing. The other myth that needs to be debunked is that Muntu is very soft and so on. Well, no, that man is not soft. This is a man who walks around with wounds of war. This is a man who has the steel that a good officer carries, but he is a poorly type of guy. We had an interesting example of people who are not very apparently militant and so on, but who have made a difference. Who am I referring to? General Chiwanga, the chief of the defense forces in Zimbabwe. Have you seen a softer military guy than that? Very soft, very poorly, but they took a decisive action that changed that country. Muntu is from that kind of mold. Muntu is from the mold of the presidents, for example, that we have seen in Botswana, where right from Saserese Khama, who was president at independence, through the two presidents before his son took over, have all been soft people.
Cool, calm, and collected.
Can I add for you just one thing about Mugisha Muntu, because yes. I know Mugisha Muntu.
Yes.
We are OBs, and I think he was in senior 3 when I was in senior 1. I wanted to say that from that early period, he's not a soft person.
No.
That's
okay.
what I wanted to add.
He's not.
Okay, gentlemen, we are going to take a break. And when we come back, I'll open the line so that you two, wherever you are, you can call and make your submission. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot, and we're now looking at the FDC presidential election that is due tomorrow. Who will carry the day? The Honorable Reagan Okumu, we see every time Dr. Besigye steps out, really, for me, I think he's not even militant, but sometimes the militance is brought to him because they disturb, in a way, a solitary mind. Sometimes somebody wrote a book that that when the madness of an entire nation disturbs a solitary mind, then it's not enough to say the man is mad. Because they follow him, they disturb him. But when General Muntu moves out, we don't see people following him. So perhaps his meetings may look calm, cool, and collected because the state has not disturbed him. Isn't that the real difference that happens?
No, let me just give you one example. As a person, you've never seen me being followed or beaten on the street because I have told people I hate being slapped on one side because in Africa, people don't admire you because of you are being brutalized. People admire you because of your strength. And actually during walk to work, I told people, you won't see me on the street, just to be beaten and all that. But I became a victim who went to prison. And many people know. I was the first victim of FDC who went to prison after the form. So really to say that because somebody is being attacked or what, that's a different matter. But I think the issue here is not about Muntu or Besigye. One thing I want viewers to understand, that FDC was born on an eve of election. There were needs to develop the party. There were needs to capture government. And if these tendencies has continued, then I don't think it has been a creation of Dr. Besigye or Mugisha Muntu. It hasn't been. It was a circumstances. We were torn with a lot of things. We were working to establish a political party, which we did. On the one hand, we were forced to establish structures, identify candidates, but at the same time, we were also focusing at campaign strategies. How do we capture power? So the building of the parties hasn't been continued. And you know, given some of this time, for me, I actually see these so-called tendencies as something being overblown. And you know, people think there are tendencies, extreme tendencies. No, as they say, tendencies in any political parties is good. That, you know, just to have a group of people who always sit and agree, that's the problem.
Okay. Honorable Francis Mujiche, you supported General Muntu in the previous election. On this one, you're not with him. How has he disappointed you in the last couple of years?
Well, as an activist, as a person who moves that organization is not just a word, but it is action. I supported the general because I knew it was going to be easier. It was going to be easier for me moving with the general. I supported the person who said, test me on success. I have been tested on failure. So on success, I am going to rebrand this party. The brand he brought has not sold.
But you are aware, you believe that FDC won the election in 2016.
You see.
So shouldn't that be credited to your party and to your party president, if it is true?
In 1980, after the elections, when that happened, and Mugisha Muntu was convinced, he tried his best to defend the Ugandans, because he was saying there was rigging. This time round, what did he do? If he believes, for example, that we won as FDC, you know what he did?
Oh, he should have picked a gun.
No. Because there is a modern way of doing it. You don't have to go back to Ruwero. So that's why I am looking for, because then I remember I had just won an election and luckily enough I was declared. So went to Naja Nankumbi as a party and said, we have won this election. We shall do whatever is humanly possible as a party to reclaim our victory. When he gave up on reclaiming the victory, I gave up on him. Otherwise, I have nothing against him. I am my problem.
But my colleague, no,
I will not allow you. No, I will not allow you.
This is a debate. This is not your personal thing.
I am the only person who is being. I am the only person who is not being allowed to
this is sibling rivalry.
You see, you are my colleague.
No,
I attempted to say something.
I just want to put a perspective.
Francis, one at a time. Let him conclude.
Because then it loses the meaning.
I will not.
Because even the words you are using, allowing,
Well,
it's not really allowing. I just
you
wanted
see,
to chip and say
sir.
that let us not
You see,
focus
no.
at an individual.
For me,
the party was there. The party fronted the candidate.
Can I make
And
my
the
point?
party has
Did you
organs.
invite me here to make
The
a point?
organs
Or you don't
refused
want me
to
make
take
a
certain
point?
action.
Okay.
This is the issue.
This is an interaction.
Because this is not personal to all that.
We cannot just have a monologue.
Unless we have a weakness in our structure,
Even you,
then
when
we
he
say the
speaks and you
structure is
think he's
weak.
not right, you have a right to intervene.
Intervene.
Francis, that's how it is. That's the nature of the game. But you can continue.
Well, I knew you as different until now, but the point I was making was that the FDC is known as a political party that was formed to deliver change in Uganda. We found other political parties in Uganda, but because of our style, because of how we established ourselves, we became the leading political party. Ugandans trusted us. I at some stage realized that there was a thinking that we change from that and move in a direction that will relegate us like some other political parties were relegated. That somebody tells you we shall build and build and build, we shall sharpen and sharpen and sharpen, and then you realize that at some stage you are about to become be relegated. That you hear a few people coming on board and they said, maybe if it was Tinyefuza, maybe if it was Bobby Wine, maybe if it was so and so. And you realize that people are about to say, we think FDC is again going back the DP way. And I said, no, General Muntu, I think you're a very good leader. I think you're a very good man. But I think the challenge ahead of us needs a person who is going to change the gear. You are driving in reverse gear. You're driving in neutral. We cannot remain here. We must move forward. And for me, I said, maybe after we have changed this government, you can become a very good president. But in the struggle to change this government, I can assure you, Muntu cannot be at the forefront.
Dr. Weza, what do you make of the sibling rivalry that seems to be going on?
Not really rivalry. I'm just giving a guidance.
What you're saying here.
Diverging views.
Yeah, diverging
Yes,
views. Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
No, I think Honorable Francis has made his point regarding where he sees the party going, right? And what he thinks needs to be done in order to keep the party at the helm of the struggle for what they believe is, change, the kind of change that they want to see this nation leading. So it seems to me that the leadership style of General Mugisha Muntu is not the kind of leadership style that Honorable Francis Bijuche believes will lead this party and finally help them to achieve the kind of goal that they want to arrive at. Hopefully, Honorable Regan Okumu seems to have a different view of the kind of leadership style. And for me, I'm happy that this kind of contestation of ideas can even be expressed on public air, and that we can have a situation whereby even you, the leader, can receive criticism, positive criticism, where people can stand up and say, no, I do not believe that your leadership style is the kind of style that is going to take me forward. It would be horrible if everyone was just saying, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, and we do not develop the kind of leadership acumen that we want, and we do not develop the kind of institutionalism within the party, the kind of democratic deficiency that we have. At least we can witness in the exchange of ideas from people who are not even in the ruling party, but are in this party.
Before I bring in the callers,
just to conclude, just to conclude this point, if the people or if the party members in FDC choose either Honorable Muriat or Mugisha Muntu, they have made a choice on the kind of leadership they want for the good of their party. All right? And it is important for us who are either looking from outside in to be able to appreciate that they have made a choice, and that this choice will inform the ideology of the season. And so I do not want to agree with the professor who says that there is no ideology in FDC. It seems to be clear that there is a contestation. Did I say that? Yeah. But unless I got you wrong, and I stand to be corrected. I stand to be corrected. But at least you can see that there are two views on where the party should go.
Professor,
and I think that is important.
It is clear to most of Ugandans that at least FDC has added value to our democratic journey, hasn't it?
I do agree. But again, let me first comment on my neighbor, when he said I thought I said that the ideological basis of FDC is militancy. You see, organizational ideology is also ideology. And that actually it is that organizational ideology that gave political support to FDC more than the economic ideology direction, but organizational ideology. Building on that one, I'm not an insider, as to whether Honorable Amuriat is a leader of that ideology, organizational ideology. Is it him or is it Besigye? Because we have two candidates here. We have got Major General Mugisha Muntu and Honorable Amuriat. And they are supposed to give leadership to a party whose organizational ideology is activism, is militancy. So, judging between the two,
But is that really the ideology, or is that what you see?
It is organizational ideology which I have analyzed in the FDC party, which by the way,
and you're right.
Which by the way, this country, if anybody was to challenge NRM, which has got an organizational ideology of militarism, I think it is militarism versus militancy. Otherwise, the soft method of, this lady, Honorable Anite, put it the right way. She could be bashed, but she was telling the truth. She said, Tuinama J. And therefore, that militarism in ideological, ideological direction of NRM can only be challenged by militancy in this era wherein we don't want to go to the bush. However,
Dr. Mlera,
of Amuriat and Major General Mugisha Muntu, who of those fits in the organizational militancy ideology of FDC?
And I can say without any hesitation that General Muntu fits in very well.
I don't know.
And I'm very privy to that, and I'll tell you, I think the error that is made is to think that because General Muntu is not in the trenches, that therefore he is opposed to the militant activism. But let's recall in 1979, there was a man called Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini.
In Iran.
He was based in Paris. You see, he was an exile in Paris. But he was able to motivate, galvanize, organize, and implement a revolution in Iran, where the student uprising was being directed by him in Paris. Secondly, we all know that wars are fought by men and women in the trenches with the guns, but on their own, they will not succeed unless they have generals who often are sitting in air-conditioned places quite far from the field of action. So the idea that the leader must be in the trenches is false, in my opinion. And, but having said that, we know that the FDC made a decision as a party, to support defiance. Did it not? The party. And, in fact, appointed or elected Ibrahim Ssemujju Nganda to chair the Defiance Committee, am I not right? And Ibrahim Ssemujju Nganda is the chair of the re-election of Mugisha Muntu. I think that says a lot. That actually you have the chief activist or defiant leader in the party supporting the president. General Muntu supports both, and it is necessary that we have both. Because the idea that, by the way, defiance alone is going to get us there is, with all humility, I'll share with you, my brother, that it is actually misguided.
Okay.
Because
Let me
we have
open the
already
lines.
had- but
Meanwhile,
we-
you can be calling
but
us the
we
number
have
on
had-
the screen there.
But we have had defiance led by Chiza Besigye very effectively for many, many years. Have we been able to remove Yoweri Museveni?
It's a process.
Okay, let me
But there
open the
are
lines.
factors other than
And then
activism.
I'll get to hear what Ugandans are saying tonight. And of course, there are many FD supporters across the country. I'll be taking the first caller online. And please tell us where you're from and what your view is. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Good evening.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Robert. I'm calling from Entebbe.
Robert in Entebbe, you're on air, sir.
Yeah. I'm calling from Entebbe.
His TV is on.
Yes, that is good. This program is very interesting. And for me, I'm agreeing with the people who are supporting the leader who has a reading game plan.
Let me give you an advice. Please do not listen to the echo. Make one coherent statement.
Hello?
We shall get it.
Yeah.
If you hear a repeat of something, ignore.
Yes. Okay. All right. Okay, thank you. I understand now. The development of the party, I agree with the people who have the future of the development of the party. I agree with someone who is not copy and paste, but who is seeing the future of the party and the generation of tomorrow. So those who have said that Mugisha Muntu is trying to see what activists are all about and also the future of the party, I fully agree with them. And that is the best of the picture for the country. And also the supporters and all those who are going to be the supporters of the party for tomorrow. And the example is good. And also when they are doing this, they have also to tackle the education of the political issues of the future generation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. You've spoken with a lot of clarity, my brother from Entebbe there. Let me take another call online. Hello?
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 You're talking to Jonathan Ellis from
Could you repeat that, sir?
Jonathan Ellis.
Jonathan? We seem to have lost connection to Jonathan, Engineer Jonathan. So let me take another call online. Oh, is Jonathan, are you still online? Well, we've lost connection to Engineer Jonathan, and so maybe let me take another call online. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Imam Kasosi.
Yes.
I'm calling from Kampala.
All right, go ahead, sir.
I want to make a comment on both topics you have discussed tonight.
Okay.
The very first one that concerns the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the allegation to NSP.
Okay.
It is a very interesting scenario that we have such a circumstances happening to us here in Africa, and that our leaders don't take heed. It is very unfortunate that a Minister of Foreign Affairs, somebody who was the President of the General Assembly of UN, can be accused of taking a bribe of this money. And you remember, even in our oil case, he was part of those people who were accused there. Is it a coincidence?
But he was exonerated on those, and we also know now that these are mere allegations. Is this Imam Kasozi?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
The exoneration you are talking about was not thoroughly done, and it has implications in the future. Therefore, we need to be conscious of what people say. As somebody put it, that there is no smoke without fire. There could be, it could be a unique case in this case, but it is very unfortunate when you read those stories and the happenings that we are seeing.
Okay.
if I can go to the issue of the FDC, it is also very interesting that this country actually will lose the best leader they could have because of mistrust. The reason why people think that Muntu probably is a Moro is because they don't trust themselves, and because they can't trust themselves, they will never trust others. And the political bickering in this country has eroded the opportunity to build leaders that would have the sincerity of this country. I want to give you an example. When I was an undergraduate between 1982 and 85 at Makerere, my best professor was Professor Kabwejere. He used to say that African leaders commit the same mistakes, and he stated that they fear the people they lead, they cheat them, and they lie to them. It is unfortunate that today I'm seeing Professor Kabwejere, who said then that people stay long in power. He's hooting for President Museveni even to uplift the term limit. It is a big challenge. And because we lack sincerity in what we do, and we become cheap, that's why we are the way we are.
His thinking has evolved.
And I fear that we may never have better leaders because people get excited. And anxiety and excitement has been the cause of poor leadership in the Banana Republic. Thank you very much.
Okay, I suppose his thinking probably has also evolved, but shukran. Thank you very much, Imam Kasozi. Let me take maybe 2 more callers online, and then we'll get back into the studio to hear the responses. I have a call online. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Abraham, calling from Kampala.
Abraham, you're on air.
Just quick response.
Okay.
My response is that Mugisha Muntu has been at the helm of FDC as a party leader for almost 7 years. Remember, he led the half of the term of Dr. Besigye, and he led a full term as a party president, and before that he was a secretary for mobilization. And he has been singing that he wanted to build structures. But if we ask the FDC leaders who are sitting there in the studio, are these structures visible? Are these structures delivering? If we go on the ground, do we find offices? Do we find functional structures? And how come that these structures never help him to win elections whenever they contest?
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, that's a big question. I don't know whom I put it to, but probably one of us here will respond to that. Let me take the last caller online. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. You're on air. What's your name?
My name is Edward Muzungu.
Where are you calling from, Edward?
I'm calling from Kagadi district.
Kagadi, on air, Kagadi.
Yeah, I was just saying.
Yes.
You know, really, where FDC has reached, it doesn't need really a leader who is like Mugisha Muntu.
Okay.
Mugisha Muntu can keep quiet even when the party is in trouble. He can, you know, FDC now requires a leader who actually is there to help the party grow.
Okay.
Because really, FDC, immediately after the presidential elections in 2016, FDC lost some members because Muntu was too quiet. There is a way he didn't really organize.
Okay. If I may, do you subscribe to the FDC party?
Me?
Yes.
Me, I am a member of FDC.
Okay.
And, yes.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to know that. Okay. Maybe, Dr. Mnin, you have listened to some of the callers. Your response.
First, let me speak to Brother Abraham in Kampala, who said that Mugisha Muntu has been president of FDC for 7 years. Just for historical accuracy, no, that is not true. He was elected president in 2012, was he not? And so he's done 5 years. Now, you ask the question, if there were structures how come the FDC did not win, and I'm sure you're referring to the presidential election. There is again a false assumption that in fact that President Museveni won or somehow Besigye lost. You see, this election was massively rigged. So to discuss winning or not winning the election last year is discussing a falsehood. This election was stolen, period. Everybody knows that. Therefore, we cannot judge the abilities of the FDC based on a false result that was declared. Having said that, the FDC is a growing party. The FDC is struggling in an environment where right down to the LC1 level, it is undermined, fought, and sabotaged. Remember, there has been a merger of the NRM and the state. So at every level, you have the district and the local, the Gombolola intelligence officers and the RDCs and everyone terrorizing the party as it tries to grow. But in fact, the party is growing. Yesterday, there was a national council of the FDC with representation from all over the country. And some of the district leaders were reporting positive things that are happening within their areas. So the party is growing. Secondly, the idea that Muntu disappeared, that he was too quiet, that he has been, he has done nothing. No, one thing I know, and here I turn to you, my brother, you in the media also like to see drama. So where Kaihura unleashes his people on Besigye, then you are there, you are reporting those things. When Muntu is busy working the grassroots, which I know he has, and I have been on some of these journeys with him, that is not reported. Well, it's just a fact. All right, okay.
Our time is almost out. Let me begin with you, the Honorable Reagan Okumu, making your concluding remark, maybe also responding a bit to the calls, that what you make of them.
First of all, I think that I have hope that FDC will survive. It is necessary that we must have all those disagreements that any political party, vibrant political party must have. I've joined the party when I was young. I've grown in it. I founded it. I was the first chairperson. I know the characters. I know the foundations. I know the intentions and everything. And let me tell you, if anybody takes FDC for a ride and think that there is a one leader man who can lead FDC, forget about it. Okay. FDC is a combination of a number of leaders who came together, and that is reflected in our flag. When you look at that flag, there was a strong argument when I was chairing, identifying what kind of flag we should have. The leaders who came from DP actually said, we love DP, we want to come with our color. That's why you see that green is up there. Those who came from NRM say, we love yellow. We want that yellow to be there. That's why you see the middle of the flag is yellow. Then the UPC guys came and say, we love our red. We want to see the red there. So, and then those who have never belonged to any political parties actually asked and said, what about us? Then the answer was, in affirmative say, I remember it was the late Okule Park who said, when I asked him, I was the one chairing, he said, you people, the sky is the limit. So we adopted blue, which is in the middle with the map of Uganda, and eventually the FDC colors became. So I want people to know, because you see, people like to compare FDC, how it was founded, the way NRM was founded. NRM was founded because people were unpicked by some individuals. But this was a collection of interests of very intelligent people, very experienced people, some people who have suffered, who have had a lot of different things, and have come together with a common
But haven't
cause.
you really suffered a setback? Because when I look back, I see FDC of Mr. Garuga Musinguzi, FDC of Major Kazora, FDC of Augustine Ruzindana, FDC of Amanya Mushega, FDC of a person like...
what is the setback
because I no longer see them actively involved. No, and these are men and women...
But you see, as I said...
Of substance.
At the opening, that political activities are moments. Leadership also come up with moments. Now, those still continue to play their role. You don't know how much they are doing undercover to give us encouragement to move on, to give us advice to move on. So all those guys, you've never had any of them defecting. You know, in this country, it's a very pronounced thing, and it's a very saving moment for elders to defect because they want to get something for the time. And
Francis, you're parting short. Yeah. Honorable Francis.
Well, thank you very much. I want an FDC which is one Uganda, one people, with one strategy, with one approach, but with very many activities. And that I don't believe that you are going to say we have very many approaches, but one party. Very many strategies, but one party. Out there you're telling people we are about to form two parties. I don't believe in that. I am looking for a leader, and that's why I'm supporting Honorable Amuriat. I'm looking for a leader who is going to come with a clean background, a clean record, stainless steel. And you're saying, I have not been involved in these conflicts. I have a record of 15 years in parliament, but I am not involved in this record. I mean, not a leader who is saying, so and so has failed me, the party chairman has failed me, the mobilization has failed me, secretary general has failed me, so and so has failed me. So who will you work with? I want a leader who is going to come and take us together as a party and bring party cohesion and building structures. Is not just talking about it, but doing it. Because even defiance, you need structures. Whatever you need to do. So when somebody says defiance, yes, you're talking about the defiance, structures. You're talking about building structures. Structures for what? Okay. You're talking about organizing what? You cannot talk about organization for 5 years. You cannot talk about organization for 10 years. Organization is an act. It's an activity. So if FDC is a vehicle, as of today, it is being driven in Newton. Okay. We are looking for a person who is just going to increase its speed so that we get where we want to go. As of now, we are not yet. We are not there. We have come down. Members of parliament have reduced. We are losing by. We are losing by elections.
According to you, Amuriat is your biblical Moses.
No, I don't want to call him Moses. I am saying I am looking at the approach. It's not about Amuriat. It's not about General Muntu. It's about an approach that has failed us and an approach that can take us forward.
All right, thank you.
And that's why I am sure that tomorrow we will go for a delegates conference, and the delegates will not just look at the 2 individuals or the 4 individuals, but will compare the approaches and look for an approach that will take FDC forward. And not because NRM has told you, go and vote for and so, or your uncle has told you, or your sister has told you, but that you believe that you have suffered enough for the last many years, that you have lost property, that there's a time I had 79 cases. I am now left with 20. My brother Mugumya is rotting in Congo. We have suffered a lot. We want to get to the final stage of this mess.
Thank you very much, Honorable Francis Mwijushe.
Thank you,
Dr. Dan Ruhweze.
Yeah, just a few. I do not want us to ignore the first topic of our conversation. Let me just say something about that. I just want to say that I have a lot of trust in institutions. And I think the FBI has, since long years, had a good reputation of being an institution of repute, and let the callers at least give the FBI a benefit of doubt. I believe that by the time they have carried out these investigations, by the time they have been able to lay charges against the people they are accusing for breaching the laws in Uganda, I think they have a formidable case, or I suspect they have a formidable case, and let us trust that the decision that comes out helps in the fighting of crime, but also challenges us as Ugandans to be in a position of pushing for structures and institutions that operate regardless of the political leadership. And I think that is a plus we have to give the FBI and to give the United States of America. 2, I would like us to appreciate that FDC and all political parties are operating in an environment that is not speak and span. All right? And so even as we levy criticism against either the leadership of FDC as it currently is, or against the fact that the opposition parties generally are weak and are disorganized and so on, you have to appreciate the general surroundings, the governance system in our country, and that it is very difficult for a political party to operate. He is talking about having 79 cases against one individual. I think at some point Dr. Besigye took the Guinness Book record of having the highest number of cases against an individual in a year. So we cannot ignore that. But two, I think this conversation between the two FDC or the three FDC supporters is good for our nation. And personally, I say this because I'm interested in the future generation, and that we are offering leadership not just for the present moment, but also for the future generation, for my students at law school, for what they can see. And even if, just like FDC broke away from NRM, even if another faction breaks away and creates yet another party, I still think as long as that faction continues in promoting good governance, democracy, principles that are for the rule of law, just like the UPC did when it broke away from UNC for whatever reasons it gave. Even Mandela and his ANC, at the time that Mandela moved away and pushed for the leadership, it's because he was not content with the way it was happening. And so whatever is happening, for me, as long as it is promoting democracy, good governance, and the rule of law, and helps the nation as a whole, I think we should appreciate those moves. Last but not least, an encouragement to my brother Francis, that and I think it wasn't Francis, I think there's someone who called saying that these structures that Mugisha Muntu is building have not picked up. Building of structures takes a bit of time, and it's an inconvenient truth. If you want a structure, you will not get it overnight. Okay, so but all the same, that is, like I said, a different strategy that one leader has vis-a-vis another.
Our time is really out now.
Yeah.
Very briefly, Mr. Mwebesa Ndebesa.
Thank you. Just one comment about the money laundering issue. You would want to say that among other institutions that should take interest in it, so that we resolve it one way or the other, and clear the image of individuals and the country, or whatever the case may be, it should be Parliament, and we have two parliamentarians here. I think they should also be involved, because their other role is oversight function, and if an issue involves the executive, they can also take interest in it. On the question of FDC, I want to say that a leader of a political party should not be chosen only on the basis of his personal attributes, but also, as I said from the beginning, the assets that person can bring to the party. So they should also look at the other one. For example, what is Honorable Amuria to bring? What is, as an asset to FDC, what is Mugisha Muntu bringing to FDC as an asset? Finally, we also need to know that organization is not necessarily about structures. Organization of an institution is also about the procedures, the norms, the codes of conduct, the behavior, the ideology of an organization also matters. And even the headquarters, the secretariat, how you organize the headquarters, how you preside over the headquarters, and how you ensure that the headquarters is not in disarray also matters, not only about the structures at the grassroots. Actually, it could even be more important at the helm rather than at the grassroots. So when we are talking about leadership of a party or an organization, it should not only be the leadership style, but also the assets you can bring and how you can control the headquarters, so that there is coherence ideologically, but also coherence of the party individuals and supporters.
All right, thank you very much. Your parting shot, Dr. Mnini.
First of all, any leader, and whoever leader is chosen tomorrow, should be assured that colleagues will work with him. Imagine going to war and you are the general, and the colonels and the brigadiers are shooting you from behind. That will not help. So whatever comes out tomorrow, we must support that leader fully 100%. Now, I would like to also just bring something out that Muntu did last year. following the elections of last year, there was huge debate within the party as to whether the members of parliament, FDC members of parliament, should actually join parliament, including Francis Mwijuche and Reagan. Well, those who supported the total defiance and who believed Kizza Besigye had won and he had his own, his government, they said, no, you cannot go to that parliament because, in fact, you are now enabling.
That's not true.
Well, there was an opposition to
That's because
FDC.
you are not here.
Well, I will stand to be corrected, but there was opposition to FDC going to parliament. Am I not right?
What to do there in parliament?
No.
Not going there.
Well, there was opposition to it. Now, let me just make the point.
Canada is very far.
Well, people say that all the time, but you are free to comment on what happens in Washington where you don't live, and you think that I don't.
They correct you.
Hang on,
okay.
Hang on. You really
you
think
get corrected and say.
Do you remember a short while ago you didn't want somebody to interrupt you?
Yeah.
So please.
But let me just tell you, Francis, I want to make this point, that because Muntu stood firm and said we need to have our MPs in parliament, and eventually that carried the day. Fast forward to 2017, you get Brother Majezi and the president, they want to change the constitution in order to lift Article 102B. Imagine if we had not had FD members of parliament in this parliament. The article would have been amended already. But because we had a strong opposition in parliament, they were able to challenge this shenanigan, and it has forced what we are seeing. Eventually they will amend it, that I am sure they will, but it will not be as easy as if you had not been there. I will end with where we started on with regard to the issue of the allegations of bribery to Kutesa. The United States justice system is fair, and it is going to try the accused, and I hope that Kutesa and the president will avail themselves as witnesses to make sure the matter is cleared. But until then, I hope the president is going to do something that he really did that pleased many of us. When he saw that Honorable Kabafunzachi, his Minister of State for Labor, was accused, not found guilty, but accused of soliciting and receiving a bribe, he fired him. I would hope the president will continue on that path of leading by example and doing it with his foreign minister.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Reagan Okumu. Thank you very much, Honorable Francis Mwijuche. Thank you, Dr. Dan Ruhweza. Thank you, Mr. Mambutsa Devesa. And thank you very much, Dr. Munini Mulera, and all of you for having been a part of this. And let me also conclude by saying allegations against the Honorable Minister are still mere allegations, and let's look at them from that angle. Until he is proved guilty, the Honorable Kutesa is an innocent man as of now. That's what we know on this table or on this station. And on the issues of the FDC, we have two formidable candidates, General Patrick Ameret and General Muntu. You are lucky as FDC because everybody has said those are two formidable candidates. So tomorrow, you go and vote and let the man who has worked harder emerge as winner. I know you could be rivaling, but that is not because you hate each other, but I think because you love your party more. Good night, and God bless Uganda.